Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really appreciate that. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at a fragrance by the company Montale. And this is their newest release, or one of their newest releases. And it's called Ristretto Intense Cafe. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin the review, I do want to disclose that this product was sent to me for review by the company Euro Perfumes, but as always, all opinions will remain my own, and I will attempt to review this fragrance using mostly objective terms rather than subjective ones. So this is a 2019 release. The perfumer for this one is Pierre Montale. Obviously, Pierre Montale and Pierre Mancera are the same person. It's a pseudonym, and it's basically the identity representing both brands because they are sister companies of one another. And so he really does exist. There are even interviews on Fragrantica, and so go ahead and check those out if you're interested. So I remember smelling Intense Cafe a while back, and I fell in love with the scent. And I remember I was at a boutique in Soho in Manhattan, and a fellow fragrance reviewer happened to be there as well. His name is Al, and he has a channel called Street Sense. And I remember we were both in the boutique, we smelled it, and our eyes lit up. We went up to somebody who was working behind the counter, and we said, can we please take this outside and shoot a Street Sense episode with it? To which they replied, yeah, sure, fine, do whatever you want. We took it outside, we did a video, and we both couldn't contain our enthusiasm over that fragrance. I personally really enjoy Intense Cafe, which I purchased with my own money. So here we have a flanker of that, and this one is called Ristretto Intense Cafe. I remember one of the concerns of the original was that the coffee note just didn't last a very long time. For a lot of people, it lasted an hour, 2 hours, and then it became this sort of vanilla rose woodsy combination. And so I think for the people who bought it on account of the coffee note, they were a little bit disappointed. With this one, Ristretto is a very bold, rich, strongly concentrated coffee note. And I remember going to Spain in early August, and everyone there drinks espresso. And so it was really hard to even find an American coffee there. And so I found myself drinking a lot of espresso. And when I came back, I jumped on a website and I bought the coffee pod so that I can make it at home. And I actually ended up buying Ristretto. And so every time I think of that, I think of the fragrance and vice versa. But enough of my ramblings. I'm very excited to tell you what I think of the smell. Let's start things off with the presentation. The box for this one is quite similar to all the other Montale fragrances on the market. Just has Ristretto Intense Cafe Eau de Parfum here towards the bottom. On the very bottom, you will see the serial number printed in there in white. On the back of the box, you see your standard information, including the UPC, the name, the logo, the concentration, and the ingredients. When you open the box, you will see that there is this pouch inside that holds the bottle. And here's the bottle itself. You'll see that it has this grenade pin here on the side that prevents it from spraying. The distribution on the atomizer is a little bit narrow, but it gets the job done. Let's continue with the smell. So as soon as this fragrance opens up, you are going to get a lot of coffee, as the name implies. And Ristretto, it is a very concentrated coffee note. And so you're going to get something that's a little bold, quite dominant, a little bitter as well, because it is a very strong and a strongly concentrated coffee note. And this one has a diminished rose note. So I know rose was one of the notes responsible for the olfactory profile, the overall smell of the original. And so I think the diminished rose note in this one kind of strips it of its identity somewhat. And so I feel like if you are a fan of the original and just how lush it is, this is one where you can't bank on a blind buy. You have to go out there and try it first. But I think that if you are originally a fan of Intense Cafe because of its inclusion of the note of coffee, this is one that you ought to check out because the coffee note has been doubled. I don't know necessarily doubled that. I don't want to say it's 100% stronger, 200% stronger, but it's definitely stronger in this one than it is in the original. Now, I personally really enjoy their take on coffee. Like I said, there's many coffee fragrances on the market. I recently finished reviewing Alien Man Fusion by Mugler. That one is a new fragrance released just this year, and they added a coffee note to it. And so we kind of see coffee finding its way in a lot of recent fragrances. And so there's even Follow by Kerosene, and there's way too many to name right now. But I like the way that coffee is done in many fragrances. This one, on the other hand, is one of the better ones, and I really enjoy it for that reason. I feel like with this one, I wouldn't say it's an improvement over the original, and I also can't say that I like one more than the other, and this is the subjectivity coming into play. I think it really will all depend on my mood, and I think subsequently it will depend on your mood as well. And so I think it's all a matter of, do I want to smell more coffee today? Do I want to smell more rose today? However, one thing that became a bit more obvious in this rendition, I would say, is the presence of the lactonic notes. So the lactonic notes are really just notes that smell like milk. And I think we see this with a lot of fragrances. I know Italica by Xerjoff is another one that has a really nice lactonic presence in it. That one is an exclusive fragrance. There's also Quilombo by Fueguia. That one also has a bit of a lactonic presence in it as well. And for this one, yes, it does kind of smell milky. And so my nose is picking up on that. I don't know if it's because there's less of other ingredients, and so it kind of like gives these ingredients more of a chance to shine, or if this is a newer addition to this blend that's not found in the original. Nonetheless, I do think that it's quite an interesting blend. This is just my opinion, by the way. I think that this is one that will really cater to those who wanted something with a stronger coffee note, but weren't necessarily crazy about the inclusion of the rose in the original. All in all, I hope you have an opportunity to check this one out, and I'd be curious to know what you think after you've had a chance to smell this one. Let's finish things off with my overall assessment. First up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, I don't think that this is an overly unique scent when compared to the original, because inevitably this is a flanker. However, when you are comparing it to other coffee dominant scents on the market, I do find this one to be rather unique. It's kind of in a league of its own. In terms of the overall smell, I personally do find it to be pleasant. I really like the smell of the coffee note that's used in here. Also, I drink like 3 or 4 cups of coffee a day. I have both a Keurig and an espresso machine in my home, and so I never leave my job. I never leave for my job without making myself at least a double shot cup of coffee in the morning, and I also bring pods with me when I go to work. So I like my coffee. I like this scent. In terms of the longevity on this one, I did get about 5 to 6 hours, so the longevity seems to be pretty good. And I find that it's not as non-linear as the original. And so this one is a bit more linear, and so just keep that in mind. If you are a fan of fragrances that do have a progression on the skin that will keep you intrigued and they will take you on a journey, perhaps that is better accomplished with the original. With this one, it's really just the coffee transitioning into the woods, while the lactonic notes are present throughout the entire bit of it. And so just keep that in mind. In terms of the projection on this one, great for the first 2 to 2.5 hours. This actually surprised me for a Montale, because Montales typically have the reputation of being some of the loudest fragrances out there, even more so than Mancera. And so with this one, I didn't get that boisterous longevity that you typically get with Montales, which might actually be a good thing given the notes that are included in this one. And also in terms of the versatility, I find it to be a rather versatile scent. I just wouldn't wear it in the dead of summer. This one I think would be fitting for a wide range of different scenarios. However, I wouldn't wear it to a super formal event. I think I would wear it in a semi-formal event. I can even pull this one off when I'm wearing it to work, as long as the weather is cold outside. And again, unisex fragrance. Last up, in terms of the presentation, I do like the fade on the front. I like the bottle. It's always deceptive. You think there's less juice in there than there actually is, just because it's so light. So my final verdict on this one is, if you are a fan of the original, but you want a stronger coffee note and you're willing to sacrifice a diminished rose note, check this one out. I have a feeling that it will be in your wheelhouse. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was my review of Ristretto Intense Cafe by Montale. If you own or you have tried this fragrance, I would love to know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Also, if you are new to this channel and you took something of value from this video, I would love it if you could support this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click that red button in the corner, and also make sure to enable notifications by clicking on that neighboring bell. Thanks again for watching. Love you all. See you next time.